The first thing that lawyers do once they have a comprehension of the rules is they help their clients navigate through, they guide their clients through the rules. And I don't mean guide like a tour guide who says, oh, this is the arch, this is the rock. I mean like a mountaineering guide. Someone who takes you through a treacherous pass where there are lots of ways to make a false step and you come out in the end in one piece. That's the kind of guiding lawyers do. Let me give you an example from my practice. So I work at the Northwestern Entrepreneurship Law Center with a lot of tech entrepreneurs, which is pretty cool. Recently, 4 tech entrepreneurs came into the center, and they had this idea that they wanted to set up a new company, great, very normal for us, and they wanted to all have an equal vote in it, great, no problem. But the thing that was unusual about them is that they owned different percentages of the business, even though they wanted their vote to be the same. So the person who owned 10% of the business would get the same vote as the person who owned 60% of the business. Now, that's unusual. The other thing they wanted was to not have to deal with a board of directors or have that kind of formal thing. Okay, so now we're thinking about this problem. We're trying to think, how can we get them through the rules to where they want to go? If we set up a corporation for them, which would be a normal thing, well, then you got to have a board, and it's complicated to do the voting that way, and that's not a perfect fit. So we navigate them over to the limited liability company statute, which is another way you can form a business entity, and we set them up that way. There, it's very normal to separate voting from economics, and it all worked out. So that's the first way, the thing that lawyers do, navigate through the rules. We're not having them break the rules. We're not helping them sidestep rules. We're navigating them through rules. The second thing that lawyers do is we layer rules on top of existing rules. You've definitely seen this in your life. You experience it almost every day. If you check into a hotel, you have to initial the registration card. If you go to a public pool, you see a sign posted with all various rules. These are rules layered on top of the rules that we all have to adhere to. So going back to my tech entrepreneurs, they had this notion that they wanted all their decisions to be made on a majority basis. So since there were 4 of them, 3 of the 4 agree on something, then that's going to be what happens. And again, that's pretty normal. The limited liability company statute says, okay, if you majority rules on almost everything. Notice what I said, almost everything. Some things like selling the business require usually a unanimous vote. You can't force someone to sell their ownership stake in the business. So what do? We write them a contract, which is the way lawyers layer rules on top of rules, and that contract then says, okay, if a majority of us agree to sell the business, we're all going to go along with it, we're all going to vote how we need to vote, sign whatever we need to sign, and make sure the business gets sold. It's called a drag-along agreement. That's what we wrote for our clients, and that was layering a rule on top of rule. Okay, the third thing that lawyers do with their clients and helping them to get through rules is we have this concept called changing jurisdiction. If you don't like the rules where you are, you go somewhere else. It's the same idea as a college student doing spring break in Montreal where the drinking age is 18. Even though it's like the wrong time of year to go to Montreal, but you go there because you can drink, right? So what you do is if you don't like the rules where you are, you shift somewhere else. So my tech clients, they want to form an LLC. They're all based in Illinois, so it makes sense. We should start up an Illinois under the laws of the state of Illinois. Start up an LLC under the laws of the state of Illinois. But there are a few things about the Illinois LLC statute that aren't ideal, especially if you're trying to attract investors and depending on how you're going to run the business, the way they wanted to run it. So we studied other states. Are there other places where they could form this business? And we looked all around and found, hey, look, they can form this business under the laws of the state of Delaware, a state none of them had ever been visited, a state most people don't ever bother to go to, unless those people are the legal persons we call corporations or LLCs, which love Delaware. Delaware has a really business-friendly kind of law, so we set them up in Delaware. They're still here, but we shifted jurisdictions, moved them to the place they wanted to go. So there, we've got 3 strategies. We've got guiding through like a mountaineering guide, we've got layering rules on top of rules, and we've got switching jurisdictions. And we can see all of those at play in our daily lives. You know, there are rules around you, whether you know it or not, everywhere you look. We've got them in the office, we've got them at school, we've got them on the streets, and we've got them in our homes. And we can use legal thinking to navigate through those